Last September, I held a review raffle for my Patreon in which my patrons could request me to review a game of their choosing. Galantmon, who won the first review raffle, asked me to either review one of the LEGO games or Ni No Kuni. I remember hearing about Ni No Kuni since its 2013 North American release. However, I was preoccupied with other shit in my life at the time, so I couldn't play it. But since Namco announced Ni No Kuni 2 last year, I finally decided to play the game after all these years. With that said, let's take a look at it.
Oh yeah! Can't wait for some hot anime girls! What? What is it?
Yeah, there won't be anything perverted in this game.
You bitch!
So let me give you some background history about the game. Ni No Kuni was a collaborative project between Level 5, who developed games like Dark Cloud and Rogue Galaxy. Like I was saying, Ni No Kuni was a joint project between Level 5 and the famous Studio Ghibli. Do I really need to talk about Studio Ghibli? Everyone and their moms love Studio Ghibli.
Miyazaki, then Takahata, instead of, for example, Disney and Pixar style, where they get everyone to throw in ideas, now they dump all responsibility on the director's shoulders.
Recently my Howl's Moving Castle video got taken down by Studio Ghibli. Thanks Studio Ghibli, I love your films, obviously, and thanks for noticing.
And we found out that we had a strike from Studio Ghibli, the Japanese company, not the American Disney part of it, Japan, against My Neighbor Totoro, the Disney December review of My Neighbor Totoro, which is completely in fair use.
I meant most people like them. So let me talk about the story, which, ironically, I found to be fairly straightforward when compared to other RPGs released at the time. Hell! The story for one of them still hurts my head trying to understand it to this day. The story starts off in a 1950-ish small town called Motorville, where our main protagonist Oliver lives. Within the first couple minutes of the game, Oliver's mom kicks a bucket after trying to save him from drowning. After days of grieving, one of Oliver's toys comes to life and tells him he can revive his mom if he comes with him to a magical apparel world and overthrow an evil sorcerer named Shadar. Sounds simple, right? As with usual JRPGs, you acquire various new allies and equipment along the way to stop Shadar. One of the biggest compliments I can give to the game is establishing the lore and the world without confusing the player, unlike other games. Ni No Kuni does an excellent job establishing the world through its amazing cel-shaded graphics and outstanding music. Because this was a joint project with Studio Ghibli, the game's graphics had to match with some of the animated sequences Studio Ghibli worked on. It would be silly for me to say that the game's graphics is a one-to-one match, but it does well in copying the visual style for the world, the particles, to even the character designs. And of course, I would be a fool not to talk about the game's music, which was composed by this guy! If you get the chance, I highly recommend hearing a few tracks. So with an interesting story, amazing graphics, and a second to none soundtrack, I should have loved this game, right? Here's the thing though, I didn't really enjoy... Can I finish please? What I meant to say is that I wasn't a fan of the game's combat system. If you played MMOs like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, then the combat should be fairly familiar to you. Your characters can run anywhere in the circle and can do any action within that circle, but that action suffers a cooldown timer after performing it. Your characters also have the ability to summon familiars into combat, which can seriously aid you in combat based on their attributes. These creatures can be captured if you chomp them enough in battle, which requires beating the living crap out of them. You can also increase the strength of these monsters by feeding them food and evolving them through various stones? No, it's not a Pokemon clone.
Please kill me.
Ni No Kuni places a strong emphasis on going into battles well prepared and having an overall strategy to beating your opponents. Despite it being rated E for everyone, this game is not afraid to kick your ass once in a while. Not only do you have to make sure your characters are properly leveled, but you have to make sure you have the right familiars, the right spells, and the right equipment to survive. The game also places a strong focus on knowing when to attack and when to defend, otherwise you'll be seeing this very often. But the difficulty isn't really why I hate the game's combat system. The issues lie with the combat UI and the AI during the early parts of the game. The combat system is menu based for all of the core actions, which means you have to sift through a lot of menus to do basic stuff. This makes combat not only needlessly complicated, but it can cause you to miss vital times to defend yourself from enemy attacks if you accidentally select the wrong action. Another major complaint I have about the game's combat system are your allies. Though you do have the option of setting the behavior during combat, your allies will die a lot during the early parts of the game since there's no way of telling them to defend or not. This proves especially problematic during early boss fights. Hell, during one boss fight, I just let my allies die since I knew I'll be wasting precious healing items anyway. Although you can switch between characters anytime during combat, you will spend a lot of time micromanaging your allies. The worst part about this is that you do get the ability to tell your allies to defend later on in the game. If level 5 put this earlier in the game, then a lot of my complaints about the allies would be unwarranted. So let me wrap up this review before I trigger more Ni No Kuni fans. So what's my overall thoughts? Based on what I've played, I honestly can see why people consider this a classic. The game's graphics are fantastic, the world is immersive and engaging, and the music is absolutely breathtaking. However, the combat system has some issues that could be fine-tuned a bit. Did it ruin the experience for me? Not really, but it might make it aggravating to play for new players. My recommendation? If you're a hardcore JRPG fan that's looking to dive into a rich and superb world, then you have to get this game. However, if you don't like wasting 10 to 20 hours to understand the game's combat system, then I recommend skipping this game. Despite my complaints and you're still interested in the game, they can get the game at the following links. Well, I finished all the games I was supposed to review. Now I can sit back and read. Why am I in my old high school?
All right, I teleported him. Where's my payment?
Isn't that bad for your diabetes?
You ain't my doctor.
Why am I here?
Look, I need you to review another game of mine, and I thought this could be a good place to hold it.
What game you released requires me to review it at my old high school? Next review. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this review. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe. Also, please support my friends who helped me with this review by checking out the links down below. Once again, this is Daitomodachi, and I hope you have a wonderful day and night. See ya!
I finally found you.